All right, everyone. Welcome to the show. Charles Moskowitz here. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Josh Bernstein's my guest. He is the author of Preserving Liberty, Bold and Brave Solutions to Save America and Create Permanent Freedom. Josh is a talk show host, political analyst, commentator, professional speaker, one of America's most sought after TV and radio guests in media today. Josh, thanks for joining me today.
It's great to be back on the program with you. It's what is this, our fifth or sixth time together?
Something like
Probably
that, yeah.
somewhere around there
Well,
throughout the years.
you've been in the trenches, you've been out in the vineyards, and you've fought this courageous fight to expose the nature of our corrupt elite controllers, if you will, and their interaction internationally and what their agenda is, what they're trying to do. So I need to start out by asking you about this upcoming election. I think if we had a fair and free election, President Trump would win by a landslide. And yet I still see some of the same structures in place to make sure that doesn't happen. So what are you learning from on the ground, so to speak, in terms of election integrity and what they might try to pull off?
Well, I think that some things have definitely changed from 2020. First and foremost, we finally got rid of Ronna McDaniel and replaced her with Laura Trump and Michael Whatley. And from everything I can see, we are taking election integrity a lot more serious this time around. This is actually the first time that any political campaign for president has ever outsourced their ground game. And we have done that with some pretty amazing organizations, obviously Turning Point Action, ballot chasing. Of course, you've got Early Vote Action. Scott Pressler is doing a bang-up job out there in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and elsewhere. There's still 300,000 hunters in Pennsylvania that are low propensity and or not registered to vote. And, with single women that are single issue voters that all they really care about is the right to murder their unborn children, that's going to be a tough thing. We've got to get a lot more men to vote in this election because it's interesting, we've had our right to vote, right? Always. And women didn't have the right to vote. Now they have it and they really like it and they continue to use it. And men take it for granted. And they say, well, I'll get them next time. There might not be a next time. So we've got to make sure that we are on the up and up. There's been some interesting decisions, of course. Virginia has basically outlawed illegal aliens from being able to vote through executive order with Glenn Youngkin.
Yes.
You've had a good decision in Michigan that stopped the Secretary of State from saying, well, if the signature sort of matches, and don't worry about that.
Judge threw that out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we've kind of blocked some of that. There's been some good decisions, obviously, here in Arizona. There's been some good decisions in Pennsylvania. So, overall, I think that there's been definitely some improvements. There's certainly been a lot more eyeballs on a lot of things. But to say that it's perfect or to say that we can sit back and be complacent and say that we got this in the bag, absolutely not. I don't care what the polls show. Yeah. I don't care what, how much he's leading with independents, which in some reports I've seen as much as 50, 60 percentage points and as little as 8 or 9. So it just kind of depends. But we still have our work cut out for us. Obviously, we could see the race really kind of shape up here pretty soon with the debate that's coming up on September 10th. Mm-hmm. And as Tucker Carlson said last night, because I saw him in person, not like talking to him, but I went to see him and Russell Brand. He said that it's possible this country may not look the same in the next month and a half to 2 months before the election. He said, so be aware that things could go wrong, could go changing, whatever it may be. He wasn't specific about it, but we've got to be cognizant of that as well.
Right. I mean, first of all, I think with the abortion issue, it's really, I would tell women that it's not on the ballot. It's a state issue. If they want to see abortion policy regulated in a certain way, they need to go to their state legislatures. That's something that Roe versus Wade was deemed unconstitutional. Everyone knew it was for 30 years. And now the states can make abortion laws I mean, I would say, unfortunately, here in my own state of Massachusetts, they actually made abortion even more liberal for some reason. Now you can kill the baby after it's born. But the point is, and as awful as that is, the point I'm making here is that it is up to the states, and that's the Democratic approach. They like to talk about democracy. Well, this is democracy. Elected representatives making these decisions by vote and by negotiation. Now, Josh, you made reference and you talked about Tucker Carlson and others talking about something happening between now and election day, like not maybe an October surprise, I suppose. I think that the elites that we're talking about, they're not going to give up so easy. They're going to do whatever they need to do to stay in power. They don't care if they look, they've already taken a shot at President Trump. I mean, now they're covering that up. Um, I don't know. What do you, I mean, I mean, it's a little late for another pandemic. Nobody bought the monkeypox thing, right?
Right.
That didn't go
Mhm.
anywhere because people remember that it was mainly gay people giving it to children. So what do you think they're going to pull?
It's a good question. What are they capable of? Who knows? I mean, probably quite a bit. I don't know. I don't even want to put it out there in the atmosphere, but we saw what happened in 2022 when
Mm,
I and many others were telling everyone, don't vote early, vote on election day. And of
oh, yeah,
course, they got the message as well, and they sabotaged the machines in over 60% of the precincts in Maricopa County. So
that's right.
God forbid there's some type of sabotage on election day. I think Republicans in general are smarter now. I'm not a big fan of early voting. I don't like mail-in voting. I want to see all of that stuff eliminated. I talk about it in the book, as a matter of fact. But
Hmm.
we have to unfortunately play their game
Yes,
until we can get into a position in which we can eliminate the shenanigans and the games and actually
right.
go back to paper ballots, kick out these machines, smaller precincts, and quite frankly, all results in on election night by midnight. And no sandbagging. That's something I talk about in the book as well. You
Hmm.
know, I remember the Georgia runoff very, very well. And I was looking, and Herschel Walker was crushing it. He was winning by 8, 10, 11 points all night long. And I'm looking at the map, but I noticed there's a big blue cluster in the middle near Atlanta. And so I called my buddy at Voter GA, Garland Favorito, and I said, Garland, what's going on here? You know, is he going to pull this out? And he goes, I don't know. He goes, I think
Mm.
they're sandbagging and they're waiting for all the red counties to come in. And then they're going to calculate how much votes they need to steal in order to say, whoa, that was a razor sharp, close victory for Warnock. When, of course, Herschel Walker absolutely blew him out of the water. But they cheat. And they've been cheating for the longest time. And so that's what we have to be worried about. I've been telling people all along to make sure that we're watching the drop boxes. You know, if you live in a swing state, even if you don't, you live next to a swing state, look online and put in, you know, which where the drop boxes are in your state. Go find a couple in the blue urban cities and take 5 or 6 of your friends, get them together, do it in teams, do it from 8 p.m. till 6 a.m. because that's when the majority of the drop box stuffing actually happens. We've
Indeed.
got to watch it all. We've got to be prepared for all of it.
Yeah, I mean the drop boxes. I think Catherine Engelbrecht is spearheading an initiative, at least in Maricopa County, if not in Georgia, to have people live stream the drop boxes. You know, to make sure that we don't have any more of
Well, video surveillance is
mules.
wonderful, but
Yeah,
I'd like to see manpower. I'd like to see actual physical beings right next to them with their cameras, intimidating them to say, hey, you better be putting in just your ballot and
that's
not
right.
stacks and
And
stacks and
we
stacks of
want to make sure that everyone operates legally and doesn't obstruct anyone.
correct.
It's simply a matter of having eyeballs on those boxes because Dinesh D'Souza's documentary, 2000
Oh yeah.
Mules, did a great job of showing video of people pulling up to the boxes and stuffing ballot after ballot after ballot into the
So
boxes.
disheartening to watch.
The laws in every state are that you're only allowed to put one ballot in, and it has to be done either by the voter or by a specific person that they designate. I mean, I don't understand why, if they're going to do these drop boxes, why it couldn't be run like an ATM machine where you have,
Or
you have
why aren't the
to.
local police standing guard?
But
Honestly,
yeah,
you
but
know.
this is the system we have right now, Josh. And this is, as you say, the early voting, as the Irish used to say in Boston, vote early and vote often. The point is that you have to get out and vote early and keep voting, getting your friends, your colleagues, your family members to just keep at it and even start early, and don't fall into these tricks and these traps. Vote early. We're getting junk mail already asking us to register. Bring that with you to prove that
Yeah,
you are who you are, because in 2020 you had all thousands of people, particularly in Pittsburgh and Phoenix, turned away from the polls because, oh, you already voted, really? And then they get a
exactly.
provisional ballot, which is who knows what happened. Of course, it
Well, one
begs
of
the
the
question
things
of who
that
actually did vote for them and how.
Mike Lindell is that if you do receive a ballot in the mail, fill it out completely, but don't mail it in. Hold on to it. Put it in your pocket, have it signed, have it ready to go in the envelope, and then go vote in person. And if they tell you for any reason, oh, you've already voted, you pull that ballot out and go, no, I have not. And make sure that you have the local police and the county recorder's office or your precinct number to report it as an election fraud right then and there on the spot. And I would also encourage people to use your cell phones and take a copy of your ballot before you slide it into the machine in many states, so that you can see exactly what you did in case anything was changed. And then afterwards, contact them and say, hey, I just want to make sure that my vote counted. Here's the code or whatever it might be. I was number 342689. Okay, and they look you up. Oh yeah, your vote counted. Or no, actually your vote didn't count. You know what I mean? And it's
Hmm.
sad. It's really truly sad that we have to even think like that in this country.
We
But
have to do it this time, and if I believe that if we win, the Republican National Convention protocols, the platform, literally says we'll be going all paper ballots on election day, just like every other major democracy in the world. I mean, France
yeah,
had it's a country of 50 million people. They had their vote. Everyone only paper ballots. The thing was counted by 11 p.m. and they had a winner. That is what I mean.
yeah,
There's no nation, no modern democracy, as the left likes to call them, that
yeah,
is doing these machines. And
yeah,
that we found out recently in Maricopa County. I remember in 2020 there was claims that those machines were online, and anybody who made that suggestion, oh my God, you're like a subhuman for even
yeah,
thinking this. Well, recently Google did this correction with this new software, and you had machines, and you had voting. Oh, not voting. You had computers all followed up at the airports and hotels and in businesses. And Maricopa County was having a special election that day, and their machines had to be shut down because they were obviously online. I mean, how else would they
and
have
they've
gotten
been
this virus?
online. That's the sad part. They've been lying about that for the longest time. I talk about that actually in the book, and they've admitted that they're online. So again,
Right.
this isn't something new. They've been online, and you know what? People should go in to the polling stations and look at these machines and see, are they plugged in. Obviously they're going to be plugged in for electricity, but are they online? You can tell. You can see the thing whether or not the internet thing on the screen shows that it's connected to the internet. And I think, or just call them out right on the spot. Is this machine online right now?
Hmm.
Well, what do you mean? I don't know. You tell me. Is this machine online? And take
Exactly.
a video. We've
Be
got to
very
be
polite,
forceful about it.
but be very direct. I mean,
Yeah.
Massachusetts is actually pretty conservative on these issues. We do it with the paper ballot,
Yeah.
and
Well,
if
smart.
you yeah, and if you cheat in this state, it's a $10,000 fine and I think a mandatory prison sentence. So, they really don't mess around. Of course, I mean, it's a blue state, and I think
Mhm.
they kind of, people are so set in their ways. But you never know. Um, we were talking about. By the way, my guest is Josh Bernstein. The book is Preserving Liberty bold and brave solutions to save America and create permanent freedom. And of course, a lot of the things that you talk about here, Josh, are predicated on President Trump taking office. And we were making speculation with regard to what kind of emergency could happen. I think it's already happening in Aurora, Colorado, and now it's
Yes.
spread to Texas. You have Venezuelan gangs who have entered the country by the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, taking over buildings, taking over neighborhoods, and it's spreading. And I think that as the weeks go on, that's going to turn into a situation because these local police departments can't handle that. You know, you said the
Nor will
Aurora.
they. That's the thing. They won't even do it. They won't even acknowledge there's an issue. I mean, police literally said, "Oh, that's an imagination," showing the video, and then finally he goes, "Oh yeah, well, yeah, there might have been one or two incidents." It's like they're downplaying it because they don't care. Here's the thing: they need illegal votes in order to steal the election, right?
Right.
So if a couple of Americans, couple 100,000 Americans die of fentanyl poisoning, get run over, get murdered or raped, they don't care. It's collateral damage. It's not a big deal,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your life doesn't matter. My power and my vote to stay in power is all that matters. And so you're clearly seeing this. So far, these gangs have been found in 11 major cities in about 4 or 5 states already. And look, I think what could happen here, and maybe this is the October surprise, perhaps maybe there's going to be such a violent act that may happen at a home invasion, an apartment complex, whatever it may be, and you may have dozens of innocent people getting killed. And just maybe at that point, it's finally going to register in these baby killing, single women that, you know what, even if I want to kill my babies, I can't because I won't be alive because these gangs are all over the place. So I guess I'm going to have to vote for President Trump because he's the only one that's going to clear this rat's nest of infestation of these
Right.
gang members out of the country. And you know what? I tell leftists all the time, well, do you want to be able to have abortion or do you want to die in a nuclear holocaust? It's really your choice. Put it that plain, and these people
On
that
the
would
other
vote for
hand,
her are insane.
Josh, just to push back a bit, for some reason, and I don't claim to understand it, the opposite could happen if you have that kind of mayhem and that kind of anarchy. I mean, I'll point to after the death of George Floyd, you had what could be described as a Kristallnacht in America against Black people. Black businesses looted, Black neighborhoods burned, Black children murdered on the street, all over the major cities in this country. And it created a sense of anarchy that was used somehow against Trump. I wonder if they're going to create this same atmosphere of anarchy now with the illegal aliens taking over blocks of neighborhoods, sort of like what they were doing in Seattle with the Chop Chaz, whatever the hell that was. And that we're going to see a change in this country that's unlike anything we could have possibly expected. And Americans are not prepared for this. The American police departments aren't prepared for it. These guys are used to, they're all overweight. They're running around. They can't fight these people. I mean, this is going to be, Americans are complacent. We have no idea what could happen. And this could really transform this country overnight, eventually. I mean, they can't hide it. But I wonder if it might work to help them somehow. There'll be like a sense of emergency that we
It's
have
a
to
possibility, but I think if this was done by illegal gangs rather than anything else, I think that would be the story. I think that if it was something, I mean, it would have to be something so big that it couldn't be, one day in the news cycle or 2 days in the news cycle. It would have to be 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And it would have to be from a standpoint of these people were let in by Harris and by Biden and all that. And once the paper trail of blood, if you will, points to them, I think you could see a big turn. But the other thing that I'll say is this, you do have this Bobby Kennedy endorsement, right? You have Tulsi Gabbard. There's going to be some other prominent Democrats coming down the pike here pretty soon. And I've said this to Trump, not personally, but, to his orbit. And I've said, You ought to have the RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard show and let them go out on the road and talk about childhood obesity. Let them talk about
Hmm.
censorship. Let them talk about changing our food supply and making our food supply healthier. Take that entire wing and just, designate it to them and say,
Fantastic. An
look,
incredible issue. Very important.
here's
RFK's up
are
in
the
Maine right
talking
now.
points you can cover. Don't
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about the Second Amendment. Don't talk about, inflation. Don't talk about any of these other things. Just concentrate on health, and you will peel off 3 to 4% of that single women that you desperately, desperately need in order to win the election.
Oh, absolutely. It's an incredible issue, and it's really the first time it's being brought up. And RFK was up, he's up in Maine, and he's like on fire. I mean, he's doing major programs. It's a great development. You have the development of, I think, what Stephen Miller described as a realignment in American politics that's hasn't happened since Reconstruction, where you have it's Trump's never been a party person. He's always been against the uniparty, bringing power back to the people, and now you have this kind of coalition forming that's just incredible between Trump and RFK and Elon Musk and Tulsi Gabbard and Vivek Ramaswamy and JD Vance. These are incredible people, very strong, talented, defining people who really can step in and create a consequential and defining government. And I think people see that and they're contrasting it to this empty suit that's running the country right now. I hope that they see it. What's
Yeah. And, speaking of the empty suit, not only is Tim Walz basically a communist, a Chinese communist spy,
yes,
if you will, but even Harris, I mean, she has this joy campaign.
yes,
She's
strength
running on
through
this
joy.
campaign of joy. It's straight from Nazi Germany,
Indeed, strength through
1933
joy.
to
That's Goebbels.
1945. That was
Yeah,
the Joy campaign in Nazi Germany. The SS soldiers were so, downtrodden from all the murdering they had to do, right? Of gypsies and Jews and everybody else. They needed to kind of pump up the morale. So what did they do? They did arts and crafts. They did educational things. They did sporting events. And here we are in 2024, and a Democrat candidate running for president, who, by the way, stole it and, came through a coup and all that, right?
right.
But now we have this person doing this joy campaign, and it comes straight from communist, from the Nazis in Germany. Also, I don't know if you know, but this word salad thing that she's been saying, burdened by what has been,
Burden.
that's
Yeah,
not word salad. She knows
that's
exactly what
communism.
she's saying.
Yeah.
It has to do with what's known as the four olds in Chinese Marxism. The
Right.
four olds were old traditions, old ideas, old customs, and old something else. I don't remember which one the fourth one is. I always forget that one, even on the spot. But basically, what it means is don't be unburdened by your past, freedoms and liberties and prosperities. Be unburdened by that of what will be in the future when you don't have any of your rights, right? That's what
Um,
this is all about. So they're telepathing who they are. They're
yes.
communists, and they're
Oh, yeah. I
saying
mean,
this is
that's
who we are.
sheer Maoism. I mean, that's this great leap forward. Would forget the history. Everything is in the present, and we're going to reshape. I mean, Obama talked about transforming. It's the same thing, and that
Yeah.
we don't have. We're in a world right now that's on the verge of World War III. You've got American missiles hitting Russia, a nuclear power. You've got Israel's on the brink of a war that could engulf the Middle East. Taiwan, I mean, they're flying, planes over there. You've got, the price of hamburger, $15 for a McDonald's hamburger, for Christ's sake. I mean, this is like, the border is wide open. You've got 20 million people. We don't have time for some silly social experiment right now. We need to have a strong government with, frankly, a strong man to be in
We
there and
do.
to kind of, set things at least right before it's too late. Maybe it is too late, but we need, we've got to get a running chance. This is a very important election.
I would say this is the last shot right here because, I mean, President Trump needs to get back into office and he needs to implement Schedule F immediately and get rid of the entrenched administrative state. I talk about this in my book. I
Yep.
talk about the fact that, even though he tried to do that before, and then of course Biden on day one did an executive order to reverse it. Well, guess what? It can be reversed again through another executive order. I'd like to see it as legislation, but at least at this point, we've got to fire these hundreds of thousands of administrative state personnel. And I actually talk about it in the book. We ought to, it should be a fair thing, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. If you're coming into office, into a new administration, why on earth would you
Exactly.
have to serve with people from a former administration, number one, and number two, people that are going to undermine you and leak and do all of these things to inhibit your ability to govern? That's not fair to a Republican or a Democrat. So
Of
one of the things
course.
that I talk about in the book is when a new president-elect is chosen for the country, those people are put on notice that they have 30 days to reapply for their job. If they don't reapply for their job, they're gone forever, okay? And they're going to be completely replaced. If they want to reapply for their job, of course they can. And then the Trump campaign and the transition team would make that decision as to whether or not they meet the merits of serving in this next administration. And that goes with a Democrat too. That goes with anyone. It's unfair for these people to serve with people that are going to undermine them at all
Yeah,
costs.
right. It's what Steve Bannon called the permanent administrative state, and what you're talking about has historic precedents. Andrew Jackson, to the victor go the spoils, when he was elected. Lincoln
Correct.
did this. FDR did it. I mean, Jimmy Carter did it, for God's sakes.
It's not a
Everybody
radical
resigned,
idea.
and then they had to reapply for their jobs. Some were rehired, some weren't. That's what
Exactly.
you do. I mean, this is not a permanent government. It's a
Right.
government that has a peaceful revolution every 4 years, through voting. So you're right on the money on that one, Josh. Now, you talk about in your book how to address this rhetoric about class conflict and division,
Yes.
and that somehow, implied there is that Trump is responsible for creating these terrible divisions in society.
Well, first and foremost, the only thing that I take heed with anyone that says over and over and over again is that we're a democracy. We are clearly not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. Do you know how many times the word democracy is in the Constitution?
0.
0 times. And I always tell people the same thing. We are a constitutional republic. And if you want to be reminded of that, just recite the Pledge of Allegiance and stop at the part when it says, "And to the
republic." I've done this with
for
people.
which we
They're like,
stand." And so that would be the first thing. But as far as class warfare, that's chapter 9 in the book. And what I talk about is class warfare is embedded in tax policy. So if you change the tax policy, you can then eliminate the class warfare argument. You no longer will have the 1% versus the 99% and all of that other stuff. So one of the things that I talk about in the book, and again, my book is filled with 192 pages of nothing but solutions. I don't just complain about things. I offer real solutions here. And there's 10 legislative ideas in the book, and there's another 30 additional solutions in the book as well. This is a book that you're going to want to order and you're going to want to read with a yellow highlighter in your hand, and you will have multiple audible gasps at the information and details in the book. But in chapter 9, I talk about the class warfare argument, and I said, if we would go to a 22% consumption-only tax, okay? Why 22%? Well, because most people fall into a 15% tax bracket. If you add the 7.65% payroll tax, that's roughly 22%. However, at that 22% consumption-only tax, you now eliminate property taxes, estate taxes, capital gains taxes, income taxes, payroll, all of those other taxes. So you're going to keep a ton more of your money. So what this would do is it eliminates the argument because it doesn't help the poor any more than it helps the rich, and it doesn't help the rich any more than it would hurt or help the poor. Everybody is equal, okay? And right now, you have 50% of the entire U.S. population that doesn't pay any taxes whatsoever at all, right? The top percent are the ones that pay all of the taxes. They pay 96% of the taxes. And so if you remove the class warfare argument, it doesn't, like I said, it makes everything equal. But more importantly, more people have more money to reinvest back into themselves, back into the communities, back into the stock market, back into investments, whatever it may be, and it will grow the strength of the economy. Another thing I talk about is how to eliminate $10 trillion in the national debt. Now, I'm not going to get to all the details. I don't want to give it all away, but 4.5 trillion of that is being held right now in offshore accounts because of our high capital gains tax. Denmark is the highest in the world. We are second at 37%. And so why not do a moratorium, a 90-day moratorium of 0% capital gains tax, and let that 4.5 trillion come rushing back into the economy? A lot of that can be used to pay down the national debt, but more importantly, it'll be reinvested back into the economy. You can get an immediate jolt starting for 2025. And again, there's so many other ideas that I have that also are pertaining to that: election integrity, closing the border, so many other different things. And again, it's Preserving Liberty. You can go to Amazon and you can order Preserving Liberty book on Amazon. It comes out October 8th.
Wonderful. And I think that I've heard President Trump talk about some of these ideas with regard to taxation and how to, reduce the federal deficit. And you've got a very good outline for that, Josh. So, again, I want to congratulate you for this very important book. I hope it gets into the hands of our legislators. There you go. Preserving Liberty. And you say that it's a Preserving Liberty, Bold and Brave Solutions to Save America and Create Permanent Freedom. Do you want to mention a particular website where people can go to order it?
Yeah, you can go to Amazon.com, and in the search area, just put Preserving Liberty book, and you'll find my ugly mug staring at you doing that. But like I said, it's the type of book that when you read it, you're going to want a yellow highlighter in your hand. It's Congressman Paul Gosar wrote the foreword for the book.
Good man.
It's been endorsed by Alan Dershowitz.
Good.
It's also been endorsed by Roger Stone. It's been endorsed by another 16 to 17 other pretty major players out there as well. So there's a lot of people that are behind the book, that have endorsed the book. I wrote the book. Here's what's interesting. I don't use the word leftist. I don't use the word radical. I don't use any of those things. This is a book written by using left-leaning sources only. Why did I do that? Because I don't want to be accused of saying, oh, you wrote a right-wing book here and there or whatever. I didn't do that. I wrote a right down the middle book, and all of my solutions, of course, are liberty-based, and all of the information and sources are from the left. Why? Because eventually the left does have to tell the truth if you dig hard enough for it. I used the emails against the FBI against themselves. I used the CIA's emails in the book. I went after the scientific community on all the FOIA requests about Dr. Falsey, as I like to call him, all the experiments, including killing AIDS victims and all kinds of stuff.
Terrible.
So I really go into this book in a way that I think encapsulates everything that's wrong. And then I work on doing nothing but finding real-time solutions.
No, it's a great approach. I know what you mean. I've done it with my own books. If I find something I want to write about, I'll look into the New York Times. And if you keep digging, you'll find it buried somewhere there, and then you can quote it rather
Absolutely
than
true.
I can't say, oh, it's a right-wing source. Anyway, so Josh Bernstein, I want to thank you for joining me today. Let's stay in touch. I know that you're going to have a lot to talk about as we count down the days to the election. So we'll hopefully do it again before then.
Anytime, any topic.
Thanks a lot.